Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your schedules for this important release of information today. I'm Stu Silberman. I'm the Executive Director for the Pritchard Committee for Academic Excellence. And the Pritchard Committee is currently in its fourth decade advocating on behalf of high-quality education for all Kentuckians. Our citizen members have long advocated for early childhood, or had a strong focus on early childhood education, and we're pleased to be here today to talk about this area that is of such critical importance to our future. We're also pleased to have the support of Kentucky's business leaders who recognize that the most important aspect of a successful company and sustained and economic growth is a workforce equipped with skills needed to compete in a global marketplace. We'll hear from some of those leaders in just a few minutes. We're also releasing an important new report prepared by America's Edge. This report shows how investments in quality early care and education programs are benefiting Kentucky's businesses' bottom lines right now and can help lay the foundation for a highly skilled workforce in the future. You know, we have these great long-term studies about the investment into early childhood education. We now have a study that shows the immediate return on investment right here in Kentucky for our businesses. We think that this is important information for our businesses to have and for our legislators to have, because sometimes it's harder to look at that long-term 40-year study. It's a lot easier just to say, okay, what happens today? And one of the things you're going to hear about today that's in the report is that for every $1 invested right now in early care education, an additional 64 cents are generated for a total of $1.64. Now, you can't get that investment return anywhere. So we hope that that will resonate with folks across the Commonwealth. And conversely to that, if we're cutting early childhood programs, we lose that 64 cents on every dollar. That return outperforms investments in all other sectors, including construction, transportation, retail, wholesale trade, and manufacturing. And in addition to the economic boost brought by the new spending, investments in early learning help build stronger communities over the long term. And most of you already know that, but we want to focus today just on some of these short-term goals. But now I'm honored to introduce Governor Steve Beshear, whose commitment to quality early education programs has been evident both in word and deed since he took office. You can tell a lot about a person by how they budget their time, how do they budget the funding, and I just can't say enough that Governor Beshear has walked that talk, both with his time and with funding, and we sure do appreciate that. The governor's leadership in this area is shown by his consistent efforts since the day he took office. He strengthened the foundation for a successful future for thousands of Kentucky's youngest citizens and their families, and I am very proud to be standing here with him today. And I'd like to introduce the Honorable Governor Steve Beshear. Governor.
Thank you very much. And first, Stu, let me say thank you. Thank you for your leadership with the Pritchard Committee and your leadership in education in general. We need a lot more like Stu Silberman to continue to lead this state in the area of education. You know, this is an exciting day for early childhood care and education. When I was inaugurated as governor a little over 6 years ago, I stood before the people of Kentucky and explained my vision for the future. I said, I want to create a Kentucky where every child, regardless of whether he or she is born in the inner city, in the mountain hollow, on a farm, or in the suburbs, every child is guaranteed the potential for a life of promise and meaning. A Kentucky where every child is given the opportunity and the ability to succeed. Well, that vision represented not only a moral obligation that I think we have, but also the most direct path to a stronger Kentucky. because the very best thing Kentucky can do for its future is to build a healthier, more educated population and workforce. And that starts with our children. Now, we've long known, both anecdotally and statistically, that kids who get off to a good start on the first day of school have a better shot at a more successful education and professional career. Logically, that seems to make sense as well. But today, we receive further evidence, as Stu mentioned, evidence from the advocacy group America's Edge and the Pritchard Committee that yes, investing in early care and education does pay off. In fact, as Stu just mentioned, the report actually quantifies that return on investment. Every dollar invested in early care and education results in $1.64 more in spending in our state's economy. That means direct, immediate spending. And that figure doesn't even take into account the long-term economic impact of having a more highly trained workforce. And let me assure you, and the business officials who are here today will agree with me, that the quality of our workforce is one of their top concerns. I appreciate the work that America's Edge has done with this report, and I appreciate the Pritchard Committee's ongoing work to publicize issues like this and advocate for our schools. Their collaboration today lends credence to my efforts to build a stronger Kentucky by ramping up early childhood spending in Kentucky. As you know, it's a focal point of my proposed two-year budget. Besides significant new investments in our K through 12 classrooms, my budget proposal includes $18 million a year to allow over 5,100 more four-year-olds to attend preschool, funding for a panel that reviews child abuse deaths and injuries, $11.6 million for home visitation for parents of newborns in high-risk communities, and $111 million for quality child care for low-income workers, including over 16,000 kids in year one and 18,000 kids in year two. As this budget continues to wind its way through the General Assembly, we need to keep reminding our legislators that investing in our kids is a great deal for this state. So Stu, once again, thank you. Thanks to America's Edge. We appreciate this report as further confirmation that we are investing in the right area and moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you, Governor, and it just is a true pleasure to be standing here with a man like Governor Beshear, who really truly cares about our kids, and it's great to be here with you. And I'm also happy to be joined on the stage this afternoon by some leaders who will be speaking to you in a few minutes. One person is testifying over in Senate Education Committee right now is Dave Atkinson, the CEO of our chamber. Hopefully they'll let him go soon and he'll be able to get back over here. But if not, we have Dave covered for sure by Elizabeth McCoy, who's president and CEO of Planters Bank in Hopkinsville and is chair of the Kentucky Chamber Board of Directors. So if Dave doesn't make it back, she'll cover his remarks in addition to hers. Also, we have Helen Carroll with us, Manager of Community Relations for Toyota Motor Manufacturing of North America. And I've had the pleasure to work directly with Helen. What an advocate for kids. So we're blessed to have you here with us too. And before I turn this over to our speakers, let me introduce Tony Shivers. Tony is the Deputy Director of Ready Nation America's Edge, which is a national organization of business leaders supportive of proven education investments that strengthen American businesses and the economy. So Tony is here from Washington today, and we're so glad to have you here. Tony?
Thank you, Stu. Really appreciate it. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. As Stu indicated, my name is Tony Shivers. I'm Deputy Director of Ready Nation, America's Edge. We're so honored to actually have worked with the Pritchard Committee on this report, and we hope that the report provides the data and the analysis that the Commonwealth Legislature needs to keep high-quality early ed as a priority. With that, let me turn it over to Helen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. And Governor, I also want to say thank you so much for your commitment to early childhood education. I wouldn't earn my paycheck today if I didn't talk just a minute about Toyota. Most of Toyota's processes and operational problem solving focus on the gap between the current situation and the ideal situation or the ultimate goal. The challenging gap we currently see is the lack of folks who are prepared to come to work and build our vehicles. It's pretty simple, pretty basic. And if projections are evaluated, that gap will continue to widen as time goes by without addressing the root cause of the problem or the gap. Our evaluation of root cause for lack of prepared workforce goes directly to early childhood education. Thus, our 5-year $1 million commitment to Toyota-born learning academies across the state of Kentucky. Research shows that every dollar invested in early childhood education, return on investment is at least $7. Through reduced dropout rate, higher graduation rates, better prepared students for college or jobs, reduced crime, etc. Now, here we are today, looking at yet another way investments in early learning are beneficial in our communities. Through basic economics of increasing sales of goods and services and creating jobs, which is always good economic news. As the America's Edge report details, Kentucky businesses and local economies are receiving a surprisingly big boost from investments in these programs. As you've already heard, with every dollar invested, generating a total of $1.64 in economic activity. It's also important to remember that the multiplier works in reverse. Every dollar cut from early learning programs results in a loss of total of $1.64 in sales and services from Kentucky businesses. Funding for early learning programs benefits everything from restaurants to supermarkets to electric companies and automobile parts stores. In fact, the report shows that such funding affects more than 400 economic categories in Kentucky. That's pretty significant. These kinds of returns on investment are hard to ignore, and the report's findings make it clear that early learning is a very viable economic sector in our state's economy. Continuing early learning investments is an essential strategy for supporting Kentucky's businesses and economy. It's a pleasure for me to be here today, and it's also a pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker, Elizabeth McCoy, President and CEO of Planters Bank in Hopkinsville, and as you know, Chair of the Kentucky Chamber Board.
Thank you, Helen. And as Stu indicated, Dave Atkinson is not here because he's testifying on another education issue, and he'll be disappointed that he missed it. But I'm happy to stand here and represent the Kentucky Chamber today, and as an employer in Kentucky and the mother of a first grader. And the Kentucky Chamber is proud to be involved in early childhood education, and we're proud to be involved and stand with the governor on this issue as well as the Pritchard Committee. And as you well know, the Kentucky Chamber is not new to this issue. In fact, a passage from our 2014 legislative agenda, we've emphasized this for a number of years. State and national research makes it clear that investments in quality early childhood programs return strong dividends in higher education attainment, leading to higher paying jobs, in reduced costs for health care, criminal justice, social services and welfare, and other personal and social benefits. Kentucky must invest in early childhood education and make greater investments in enhanced child care programs for Kentucky's developing youth. Kentucky businesses need employees who are job-ready when they finish high school or college, and the path to job-ready skills begin when a child enters kindergarten. The skills needed for workplace success, the communication, problem-solving, and working well with others are developed early, and the pattern is well established by the time a child is 5. So we recognize this report being released today, that these programs are good for business now and build a strong foundation for the future success of individual Kentuckians. So thank you all for being here today, and thank you, Stu.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I'd like to just recognize a couple of other people very quickly. First is our First Lady, who is a strong early childhood advocate. And she couldn't be with us today for a good reason, but she is just a phenomenal advocate, and we want to recognize her. And Lieutenant Governor Abramson is here, Jerry, and I had the opportunity to serve with him on the Tax Commission, and what a phenomenal leader he is. And we're hoping that some of those recommendations that our legislature will pass so we can fund some of these kinds of things. Yes, sir. Thank you. And last but not least is Cindy Heine. Cindy is the engine behind the Pritchard Committee's advocacy for early childhood, and has been at this for a while, and is as persistent as anybody you'll ever meet, and will never give up. And we appreciate you very much, Cindy. Thank you.
Cindy's Terry Tolan.
And out of the governor's office, we have Terry Tolan is here from the Early Childhood Office. We are very, very fortunate to work closely with Terry and her staff, and Elizabeth. I thought I saw Elizabeth here earlier. Yeah, Elizabeth's here too, and have a great relationship. Again, what a great announcement, getting the Race to the Top grant this year, and hopefully that we'll see quality in our early childhood programs continue to go up, way up. And thanks to our staff for organizing today. But we've heard a strong, strong case for the importance of investing in early care education for the kids in Kentucky. So now it's really in the hands of our legislature. Our governor stepped up and did what was needed to put those dollars in the budget, to expand preschool, to restore the CCAP funding. Guys, we have to continue to stay on our legislators to make sure that that funding stays in there. The expansion of the HANDS program, I mean, if you want to look at statistics, there is not a program in this state that can show you better results than our HANDS program. The governor put more money in our budget to not only maintain, but to expand the HANDS program. We worry that the legislators will take some of that money out, but we need to stay strong and let them know that those dollars need to stay in there. The Pritchard Committee will continue its legislative efforts on behalf of kids in this state, and we thank you all again for being here. And we'll stop right now and open it up for questions. I know if you have specific questions about the report, Tony can help us with that, and Cindy, you might have to help us with some questions too. So we'll open it up at this point for our media folks. Linda?
Sure. Can I ask the governor?
Sure, please.
As the budget process continues and things start to go by the wayside, will you make any kind of distinction between early childhood education responsiveness for K-12?
Well, I'm pleased, first of all, that the House budget that I believe will pass today confirms their commitment as well as mine to both early childhood expansion as well as more reinvestment in K through 12 education. Some of the numbers have changed to some degree, and those conversations will continue, I assure you, as the bill goes to the Senate and then gets in a conference committee with the House. And I'm going to continue to be a very strong advocate for both the right amount of money to invest and reinvest in early childhood as well as K through 12.
Thank you, Linda. Any other questions? Well, we'll stay around up here. If you have some questions, feel free to come up. And again, thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Question from Twitter.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Says, Governor,